Right, so no one's invited. No one's invited. This is just really a test, and a chance for me to do longer videos so I can relax a bit and chill out. So, course update. So we're in the Mercy Pillar, just coming to the end of it now, gone into Virgo, the last part of the Mercy Pillar. So things have slowed down for me, right? I've slowed down with me herbs lately. A few weeks I've not really been taking many herbs and that, or nootropics and that. Just been getting just getting the feel of all this stuff really still. I seem to have gotten some good results with them. I also am working on like not taking them from time to time, so that I go back to just my normal diet without any herbs and other stuff and vitamins, just to see how it goes, how my body is adjusting with it. And yeah, so I've slowed down a bit. My body's slowed down, metabolism slowed down a bit, I think. So about 3 weeks ago now, around the time of the full moon in Aquarius, I had a big spike with my pineal gland. I sort of started producing like DMT, and I suspect like growth hormone, which was a bit scary. I suddenly started feeling like Alice in Wonderland when she's growing big and she gets stuck in the house. So I had to get off of that. I had to sort of quieten that down a bit. Well, I didn't have to, but I decided to. I sort of panicked. Yeah, so that's interesting. Right, because one of the things I've been aiming at is kind of like ever evolving. Now, using all these adaptogens, I know some people don't get much good results with these nootropics. What have I got here? This is Noopept. Oh no, it's not. This is Noopept. Yeah. And I still only used it probably about 10 times in about 3 months, and 2 or 3 months. And I've got good results, but there's an aspect of it, you've got to work with it. Now, I kind of chickened out when it came to like starting to produce like DMT and growth hormone. Like, I got a bit scared, and so provided you're prepared to sort of go ahead with this when the opportunity comes, because like a window will open, quite likely around the full moon, and your pineal gland will start going berserk. And if you don't go, if you back out of it, you don't know when that opportunity is going to come again. So I don't know when this opportunity or one like it will, or even if it will come again, or when if it does, whether I'll be ready for it the next time. Because DMT just by itself is pretty scary. So when you get DMT and growth hormone at the same time, it's like Okay, I've got these theories about, you know, the giants that have been like reported in olden times and that, and you can't really find evidence about it. But what I suspect is going on is that these are just relatively normal people that have just activated their certain glands, like their pineal gland, and have produced extra growth hormone and DMT, so they're able to grow bigger. And then there's this, you know, scientific argument about well, you can't have giants nowadays because their bones would not support the weight that they are. So you couldn't have people sort of like 30 foot tall, for example, because they wouldn't look human because they couldn't stand upright because their bones wouldn't be strong enough because they'd have to support too much weight. Now, if you think about all these monuments that have been put around the world that involve great big blocks of stone, some of them are like up to 1,000 tons, okay, and being moved like 20 miles and stuff from where they were quarried, or sometimes a lot further than that. How do you explain that? These people have obviously got some way of manipulating gravity. If you can inherently manipulate gravity, for example, then there's nothing stopping you growing to you know 30 or 50 foot high, because you can, you know, give yourself the release on the gravity so that you don't it doesn't weigh you down so much. So you can still feel light and strong because you're manipulating the gravity of everything around you anyway, including yourself. So you can be as more or less as big as you want to be. That's what I assume probably happened. And some of these other skeletons that have been found, people speculate that they're from aliens and that. It could just be that people have rewritten their own DNA. There could be aspects of our epigenetics which, once you activate them, you can activate your growth hormone and regrow. I mean, we know that there's a lot of your body is being replaced every few days or weeks, you know, or months. You know, the very most is about, I think it's about 7 years, 6 or 7 years, and you've replaced everything in your body. So if you program your DNA or whatever to grow bigger and stronger, and you also can manipulate gravity, you know, your brain can grow bigger, so you can utilize more information. You know, I think that's part of it. Also, there's the lawnmower man idea that, you know, one of the reasons I've been taking these things quite slowly, although I sort of rushed into it, I have been studying these things for quite a long time. Well, arguably thinking about them since I was like a child. So, to me, it's important to not rush into things, to understand the possible dangers that you face when you're trying to like activate these things like your pineal gland. You know, have an idea. I mean, if you haven't had a DMT experience, at least, you know, do some research and take it seriously. You know, because you know, it's probably pretty much like you know, similar to sort of an acid trip, LSD trip or something, where they could be quite scary, you know, if you're not prepared for them and you're not doing it in the right circumstances and that. On the other hand, they can be very useful, or sometimes, a lot of the time, they can just be a very strange experience that you don't really know how to make sense of. So ideally, you want to have an expectation of what to expect and be prepared for it, you know, as best prepared as you can possibly be. So that you're going to make the most of it. And the idea, I already discussed at the beginning of the course, is that you're going to become like a living God. Now, we are already living gods anyway, technically, so from a scientific standpoint. So it's no big deal from that perspective. And we're already living gods from a religious point of view. If you go to Psalm 82, so there's no big deal there either. So it should be a walk in the park. You know, it's just that there's a kind of social construct that, you know, we're just human. We've got to accept that we're just human, you know, and we're not gods and that. But we are. You know, the idea that we're not gods is a fallacy. It's ridiculous, really, because we're continually creating. The idea that we're not gods is a matrix, like brainwashing idea, to try and keep us all thinking the same, so that we can easily be predicted and you know, therefore controlled. It's like the sheep mentality that wants to think the same as everyone else, so that there's never any surprises. You can always know what people are thinking, you know, and by the way they behave and stuff, and what's predicted of their thoughts. And so when you become a living God and you start engaging in free will, you don't see any authority. The masses of people are not an authority that you have to obey. They're just masses of people, most of whom are just like sheep. You've got no reason to obey them than you would obey a sheep or a herd of sheep. You know, it's kind of exactly the same. In fact, it's probably in a way worse, because it seems pretty obvious that humans have been targeted by evil forces that are trying to control them, like the devil, for example, which we warned about. So anyway, yeah, it's kind of like an obligation to us, I feel, that to evolve and to understand that we're gods. When I say become a living God, really just to realise that you already are a living God, and you know, to work with that. You know, like developing intuition. This is not something that I think that many people do on a conscious level, but it's very straightforward. Like everyone should be doing it all the time, taking opportunities. For example, you can feel with your feelings, your guts, things that are going to happen. Like you get a feeling that something's like not right, so you're always obeying your gut instincts anyway. It's just that there are more opportunities. Like, for example, you want to go for a walk. Where do you go? Which direction do you take? Like if I come out of my house, there's at least 4 directions I can take. Let me just think. Well, 3 initially, but then they branch off. There's all, you know, there's all different places I can go, and there's all different times I can take to go in those places. So there's a nearly infinite number of completely different journeys that I can take throughout the day, according to when I go out for a walk and what direction, route I take, how long I'm out, how I'm dressed, you know, the aura, what I thought about before I went out, how I felt before I went out, you know, what my guts were telling me, all kinds of stuff that's going to affect the experience I have when I go out. And so by doing that and paying attention to what your instincts are telling you on your other aspects of your mind, you know, your consciousness, you can develop your intuition so that you know when's the best place to go and at what time, you know, because you've got a good feeling about it, and you practice only going when you've got a good feeling, and you know that your guts are telling you it's all everything's good, and practice it until your intuition is like you don't mistake it. If it's not a good time to go out, then don't go out. You know. Anyway, yeah, I really feel that there's always opportunities to develop your intuition, and it's always a good thing. This is why animals don't get caught in like tsunamis and earthquakes and that, because their intuition tells them to get out of there before it happens. It's only people that are stupid enough to get cornered by these things. Even insects and that, cockroaches know how to get out of the way. I mean, rats leave sinking ships. They know even like days before a ship's going to sink. They know it's going to sink. How the fuck do they know? Because they've got good intuition. We can all do that. That's one of the reasons I don't go to the doctors, because I know that they haven't got any use. There's no use for me to go there. I'm not going to get any worse, anything better. It's obvious how the doctors work. They don't try to cure illnesses; they try to manage illnesses. So they want a cash cow. They don't want to. If they most certainly do know how to cure all the diseases. I bet there's someone's got records of how to cure practically everything and stay really healthy your whole life, and it's really easy. But they don't want anyone to know how to do that, because they can't make money out of you then, can they? And that's what my intuition says. But of course, that means that these people who are supposedly there to like help you, and you pay your taxes, at least in the UK, you pay our taxes to pay these doctors a huge salary. It's one of the best salaries that you can get, generally speaking, for a job. It's one of the professions. It's about £100,000 a year. It's like $150,000 a year. It's plenty of money, and they also get a really good retirement. About 60% of that for when they retire, I think. So when they retire, they get £60,000 a year or something like that. So it's a really cushy job, and yet they just poison people. They poison people with really nasty drugs, and they don't tell them what they should be telling them to make them healthy. Because they don't get money for people being healthy. It's like the dentist. The dentists don't get money for you having fine teeth and never needing to go to the dentist. They get money from filling your mouth up with like poison. So then yeah. Yeah, so about this course update, it's so I don't really see it as that difficult. The difficult thing, and it's with a lot of these courses and like kind of religious type things, and occult training sort of things. They're usually quite straightforward. They're not that difficult. Most a good portion of people could do them if they put their mind to it. The main obstacle, I think, is yourself. You are the biggest obstacle, because when you start, what I had the other day, a few weeks ago, when you start getting at your pineal gland active and it starts going like ape shit, that's kind of scary. Then it's like there is no like you know, if things are going to change, you know, that means if you go along with that process, your whole life and your whole consciousness, your whole way of thinking is going to change a lot, you know, and it's like you're going to have to leave your shell and like the hermit crab and find a bigger shell. Okay, well, I'm going to stop this now because I don't even know if it's going on to the onto YouTube. It says it is, but I don't know. So I'm just going to stop it now.